many good stories that I have with Scott and my connection with him, but I had to think long and hard to come up with just 2 stories. I put this jacket on coming here and remembered a story. I bought it in Germany and we had another funny story. So bear with me, I've got some notes. I hope not to have to use them the whole time, but I might have to. Scott and I were pretty close. And this all started out, I've got 2 stories, but I'm going to start out on how it began. My family and I came here in 1968, not knowing a soul, no family or anything. And we came from Virginia and found a house in Barrackville. Couldn't find it anywhere else, but there was one in Barrackville. And we lucked out there. And we went to the lawyer's office, wasn't Scott, to sign the deeds and all the stuff you have to sign. It was Mary and I, our daughter, and our son Jimmy. He was a little under the weather. And we sat in front of the lawyer's desk and looked around, and his desk was full of memorabilia, souvenirs, documents. And I said, wow, this is pretty fancy here. So I reached across to sign the document, and Jimmy surprised us all by barfing on his desk. And he was a professional, of course. Oh, don't worry, that's no problem. That'll be okay, don't be embarrassed. And I said, well, we'd have to help you clean up or something. He said, no, don't worry about it. But I suggest you get home and come back another day. And so we got in the car, and Mary and I looked at each other, and I said, his suggestion sounded more like, get the heck out of here and don't come back. Get out of my life. Well, we came back the other day, we signed the papers, everything went well. But we did giggle a little bit because his desk was free of everything. There were no documents, nothing. He didn't want to go through that a second time. So time passed, we settled in, went to church, and met Scott. Sat next to him in the choir. And he said, I think I know you. I said, well, no, I just came. I don't think. And he laughed. He said, well, I was at a bar meeting the other night, and one of our members was laughing with some younger employees, telling a story about a young family who came from Virginia, bought a house in Barrackville, and his son barfed all over his table. And I said, well, he said, was that your family? I said, yeah, I'm guilty. And that's what started a friendship that went on for 50 years. And I remember Scott was a gentleman who cared for everyone. He loved his church, family, Barrackville, the WVU football team, and especially he loved to laugh and have fun. And that's one thing I liked about him. So the first story, I'm just getting that. He was sitting there one day after we got to know each other a little better. He said, Jim, do you ever get to the point where you feel like you can go to sleep up in the choir? And I said, well, yeah, it depends on who's preaching. Now, this has nothing to do with you. You were just a kid then, way before your time. And I've heard on the street that your sermons are simply ecstatic.
Well, there we go.
Or something.
Yeah.
I think they're really nice. But he said, I've got a game in mind to keep our minds active so we don't go to sleep. I'm going to put a lifesaver on our tongues, you and me. And we're going to let that baby sit there and soak until it's gone. And whoever keeps the lifesaver long enough wins the game. He said, we're not getting a prize, but it's just something to keep us alert and keep us going. And I said, well, I've heard you're very competitive, and who knows? I think you might cheat. I said, I want the proof. He said, how are you going to prove that? I said, well, I think we should just stick our tongues out and see what's going on. And he said, wait a minute. All those people out there in the congregation are going to look at 2 idiots sticking their tongues out at each other? I said, said, well, you got to time it just right. The things will probably take 15 minutes to melt or more. And some nights they bow their heads for some reason. They got to pray. They got to look for the books. He said, well, we'll give it a try. I said, but now Carolyn Kerr, and those of you who don't know her, she was the leader of the pack and the minister's wife. I said, she's going to look at us. And she looks at us a lot lately. I don't know why she looks at us. But she's going to see us sticking our tongues out. And he said, oh, don't worry about her. She's a school teacher. She's accustomed to dealing with children. So time went on, and I think that was the beginning of the Lifesaver Challenge. We had that challenge, and for many years, Carolyn had to look at our tongues many times. So my last story, not to keep you too long, I think is more touching. It occurred when we were overseas traveling. As I said earlier, Scott loved the church, and he loved to visit churches. So when we were overseas, we would pick a church for whatever reason and visit it and tour it. We went to churches in the Alps, in Germany and Switzerland, and great big edifices in London and Paris. And we found out that they all had something in common. Everybody wanted to go to the same place, and they sang the same songs, and we were very comforted in that. So one day, he said, Jim, today we're going to go to a home and a church where Wesley used to live, John Wesley, the father of Methodism. It was particularly of interest to him because his dad was a minister in the Methodist church, and they were transferred here, I think, when he was about 9 years old. So we went to the house, we took a guided tour. Mary and Mary Jo were walking around. The tour ended, Scott and I walked over to the church. Sat in the pew, side by side, just the two of us, and just marveled at the old church. And we thought, how many people have sat here hundreds of years and worshiped? And we looked around, and he finally looked at me and said, Jim, you'd do me a favor if you'd sing Amazing Grace. And I said, I'll try. So anyway, I said, I'll be glad to sing the song, but I don't know the words, all of them. He said, well, don't worry about that. I'll help you. That's what friends do for other friends. So I sang the song, and he quietly spoke the words. We ended, and in that moment, we knew that our friendship would last for the rest of our lives. And that's my story, pretty much. I have other things to say, but I think you've heard enough. If you see me on the street sometime, I've got lots more stories. If you want to hear them, I'll tell them to you. And after we finish here, I've got a gift for everyone. So, what are you going to do? You're going to light some, or is it already lit?
It's already lit. But I get to say a few more words.
Okay, you say something.